How's it going, everybody? This is BeatTheBush. Today we're going to talk about investing in the Facebook stock, in other words, Meta, and if it's a sin stock, any company that appears to be doing something that's unethical in order to earn money. These include selling tobacco, gambling, adult entertainment, alcohol, and also weapons. A lot of people commented saying that Facebook is an unethical company and that you shouldn't even think about investing in it. My stance on this is that no, I am not immediately going to invest in Facebook stock, but I am more doing research in the virtual reality space. I do not currently own any Facebook stock, nor do I plan to buy in the near future at all. In this video, I'm going to be talking about the Quest 2, which is something I bought in order to do my research. This video is brought to you by Raccoon, where if you shop through their portal, you can get $40 off as long as you buy something that's over $40. If you guys are interested in trying the Quest 2, there is a really good deal on Walmart right now for a 64GB version of this thing for $200. If you combine it with the Raccoon deal, you're gonna essentially get this thing for $160 plus tax. Check out my Raccoon referral link down in the video description below, along with the link to the Walmart deal. People tend to overly use social media because it's so addictive, like Facebook, Instagram. Once you watch it, it just catches your eye, and before you know it, a few hours is gone. I try to use it as little as possible, and I still clock in about 2 hours a day. From the Wall Street Journal, Facebook knows Instagram is toxic for teenage girls. Company documents show. As technology evolves, there's always going to be some company that is dishing out these advertisements. Before Facebook came along, it's all the fashion magazines that's giving teenage girls all these self-identity issues, some kind of eating disorder because they want to appear like what they see in the ads. Fashion magazines tend to show this idealism with really skinny people that is essentially unattainable for the everyday person. If you try to do this, then a lot of trouble arises. And the same thing happens with Instagram because people post only the really filtered stuff of their lives. Maybe they even edit their photos. So people trying to emulate what they see, they're gonna run into problems of trying to live a life which is fictitious, where no one really actually lives their lives that way in real life. This is how everyone really posts. No one wants to post really bad things happening to them. They only save the very good stuff, and then they're like, hey, this is worthy of posting. It's full of these curated, Instagrammable, eventful pictures. And from the outside looking in, you just see all great things happening. If you look at it enough and you see someone else having a wonderful life, then you look at your own life and go, huh, what is this? It's so boring. Now, the last video I did was based on technology that I already have, which is the HTC Vive Cosmos. This was an unfair comparison because this is not the technology that Facebook was actually selling. So I have to admit, this was a huge blunder. I really need to do more research in order to make any kind of extrapolation about their technology. So this is why I got this Quest 2 to try out just to make this video. Previously, some of you have mentioned in the comments, the Oculus Quest 2 works really well. You should check out the Quest 2. Would love to see you review it. Hey, Beat the Bush, Oculus is $300 and you don't even need a computer. Many people, they're not into playing games. They're not into virtual reality at all, but maybe they are into investing in Facebook, even though it's a sin stock. And when you buy into it, you just might be contributing to the misery of people worldwide. So know that you're doing this if you ever buy this. In fact, if you buy this thing, you might just suck yourself into this whole VR world, and you would be giving profits to the parent company that makes this stuff, which is Facebook. Instead of investing in Facebook, you might be interested in investing in other companies that has to deal with virtual reality, like Nvidia or Qualcomm that makes the chip that goes into this. Quest 2 uses the Qualcomm Snapdragon XR2 chip. There are actually no computers, no wires connected to this anymore. This is needed for mass adoption because no one is ever gonna buy like a giant honking computer with a gaming graphics card tethered to their VR headsets. This is about 500 grams or so, in other words, about 1 pound. It's still not that light, and it could definitely get a lot lighter. When I try to look for the screen door effect, it's almost imperceptible. Although the screen resolution got bumped up by a previous generation by like 25% or so, the screen door effect in this thing is largely imperceptible. I looked for it, it's there, but you have to really look very closely. It's kind of blended into the background. just enough. How they're able to do this, I am guessing that they optimize the LCD, just minimize those traces that are not light emitting. It really need to get somewhere like 1/3 the weight of this thing in order for more people to just carry it around everywhere. You might even want to think about a case where this thing can fold up almost like sunglasses so that you can just put it on anywhere that you want. The screen resolution of each eye has increased to 1832 by 1920 in a virtual desktop. If you can imagine something of that size filling up your whole vision area. And when you sit at your desk, you basically have your entire monitor fill up your whole field of view. If you have a virtual desktop, the monitor is going to appear like a HD monitor. In other words, 1920 by 1080. Personally, I use a 4K monitor, so the quality definitely is not as good. If they can bump up the resolution by 4 times, which probably will take 2 or 3 more years, then that is at the point where you may not buy a regular monitor anymore. You just will slap one of these things on. Instead of having this really big thing on your desk, you just have a VR goggle, you just put it on and boom, you have a virtual desktop, a virtual monitor. Keep in mind, if you use the free virtual desktop in Quest 2, it's actually really terrible. You might start to think that the lag in this thing is what is possible, but if you buy the paid version, the lag it's slightly there. It lags behind by, I don't know, like 1 centimeter or so. It's a little bit annoying, but then it's usable. The free one lag is about 1 second, which is completely garbage. You should not even use it. You should not even download it. Just use the paid version, which is $20. I think it's well worth the money if you are gonna use your computer as a virtual desktop. I found it pretty nice to just have a brand new environment, whichever environment that you want. You can look out the window and see that you're in a very posh apartment. Overall, the virtual desktop is really good for general web browsing, but not good for heavy-duty 3D work, heavy-duty video editing, and the colors tend to be a little bit on the red side. If you look at the raw benchmark of the Quest 2, the CPU power is roughly half the power of an i5. If you know what an i5 is, it's generally a pretty low-end desktop CPU processor from Intel. The GPU power is about 1/6 the power of a GTX 1060, which is a desktop gaming card. So of course, they're not going to market it this way because they are not trying to compete against a desktop VR headset. Instead, they talk about Quest 2 as having twice the power as the Quest 1 headset, which is, oh, okay, wow, it's really great. But then in absolute sense, in terms of raw computational power, it's really underpowered. However, when you go to use this thing, you're not going to notice any kind of really terrible performance because they vetted all the software that needs to run on this thing, and it better run smooth before they're going to sell it in the store. One thing that I noticed when using all these apps is that they generally are pretty low poly counts. This is actually a really good way for them to get away from the raw CPU and GPU processing power of traditional VR headsets. So they can actually underpower it and purposely not allow that much detail to appear on screen, therefore giving a smooth user experience. And when you put this thing on, you're like, oh yeah, it just works. I talked about foveated rendering before, where they render the stuff that you're looking at right at the center of your eye. Instead of doing eye tracking, they are just doing an approximation where they render the center of your view in high detail, and then stuff on the side is rendered in a little bit less detail. So if you're using this, you can just stare at the center and you'll see that it's very clear in the center. But if you don't move your head and just move your eyeballs to the left and right, you can see that whatever you're looking at towards the outside edge of your peripheral vision, it's going to be slightly blurred. This is used as a way to minimize GPU and CPU usage, which is a pretty neat trick. Battery is not good on this thing. If you play games for about 2 hours, you're going to drain the battery from 100% down to not usable. If you just watch shows, it's going to be about 3 hours. So in my experience of draining the battery like 2-3 times, I really do think they really need to increase the battery power on this thing to maybe like 5 or 6 hours, need to double it. I was able to use this thing for a little bit longer than a heavier headset. My neck, my whole head is not as fatigued. The IPD eye adjustment, there's just 3 settings. You can have the eyes really close together, middle, and wide. Only 3 settings. Compared to the Vive Cosmos, there's like a little knob and you can adjust it all the way down to like 0.1 millimeter. It's like a really smooth range that you can adjust it. The middle adjustment works just fine. I did not notice that, you know, things are out of focus or anything. As long as I stare right at the center, things are focused. If you are standing up and you draw a perimeter and if you happen to step out of the perimeter, these 4 cameras over here will give you a black and white view of the surrounding area. Although the resolution is not that great, it gives you an idea of where things are. You're not going to bump into it. It interpolates these 4 cameras' view into one giant view so that the image that's shown here is as if you're looking out right from the center over here, if that makes sense. It's as if you are just wearing a pair of glasses. You're just like looking straight through. They also have this interesting couch or desk area setup where you can actually place a couch in your virtual environment and mark where the surface of your couch is so that in your virtual environment, there'll be a couch there as well, and you can go and sit on your virtual couch, but in reality, you're also sitting on your real couch. Overall, I think it's very good. It's about 1 generation leap ahead of my HTC Vive Cosmos. At the current price of $300 for the standard headset or the $200 refurbished one linked down below, I think adoption will definitely increase. The momentum is building, and I think by the time they release Quest 3, the adoption rate will probably be exponential. The next version of this thing will probably come out sometime between middle of 2022 and the end of 2022. My initial conclusions about Facebook still holds. They make about $50 billion a year if they are successful with this Quest stuff. If they happen to be making $100 billion a year on this, they will essentially triple their profits. In other words, roughly triple their stock price. For me personally, I do not think 3x increase it's worth the risk, especially with the ethical concerns here. There are other companies joining the AR VR bandwagon over here, including Apple, which is coming out with a AR glasses very, very soon. This is still a rumor, but judging that their iPhone already have AR, it's not a really far leap to say that they can come out with some glasses that will also have AR. They just gotta slap in some kind of augmented reality display in your glasses. Thanks for watching this video. Check out me playing Beat Saber over here in the outro.